The council chambers are called to order. We're going to begin our February 14th council meeting. Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. And we do so begin our meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The clerk will call the roll.
Commissioner Hoskins?
Here.
Commissioner Curry? Here. Commissioner Hosty?
Here.
Commissioner Talalian?
Here.
Mayor Calderon?
Here. Commissioners, the first item is approval of our January 24th council meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve, Your Honor.
Moved by Curry. Is there a second?
I'll second, Your Honor.
Second by Hosty. Discussion. There be no discussion, the clerk will call the roll.
Commissioner Hoskins?
Aye.
Commissioner Curry?
Aye.
Commissioner Hosty?
Aye.
Commissioner Talalian?
Aye.
Mayor Calderon?
Aye. We're now at public comment. Madam Clerk, do you have any public comment sign-in sheets?
No, I don't.
Okay, we're going to continue then to communications. Commissioners, we have a request from O'Sullivan's to erect the tent for St. Patrick's Day Parade. This is has been a recurring annual request. Is there any objections to this request?
Your Honor, I don't have an objection. I do have a request for a size or a size limitation. It seems to have gotten bigger over the number of years. They're exceeding the size of their interior by a multitude. Just so you can lock in a number. I don't know what that number would be, but it seems to grow farther and farther down Marengo.
Okay. Any other concerns? Do we want to kind of set some parameters in terms of size? Tim?
Our tent size and things of that sort is something that the fire chief and frankly staff has been working on for a while. So what we'll do is get an idea. They should know what they've had over the last several years, and we'll try to lock them in at something that the chief can live with and our police department can live with. And we'll make sure that all of you are advised of how big it's going to be. Sound good, Chief?
It's for two different dates. They're asking for
The second request is this 6th annual Home School Hope Park fundraiser.
Is it going to go up and down in between those two for the parking?
Well,
No.
well.
Not find out.
I think it's a good question.
That's not a
because-
find out. That's a,
No,
it's got to come down in between.
Yeah, we're a week apart. We can't leave the tent up there for a week.
And it's got to come down after the 12th.
Of course.
Well, there's another holiday later in the week. Be like having an extra restaurant. Yeah.
No, I think it's a good point. I mean, it's got to come down after the 5th,
And
and it'll
after
have
the
to come down after the 12th, absolutely.
Mayor,
Commissioner Talalian.
the implication is that they're going to take it down, but that certainly is something worth checking. They talk about that the parameters again, or we erect the tent with the same parameters again the night before the event, but that's certainly worthwhile to confirm that that's their intent.
To go up the night before,
Yeah.
right?
The second event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just don't want an extended stay tent, I think is the gist. Got it, Tim? Okay. All right. Okay, then we're going to move on then to department reports. We have one report from the Finance Department. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Your Honor,
Commissioner Hosty.
I have a question. I'm not sure if I should direct it to the Commissioner of Accounts or Judy, but I just need clarity because some confusion's been put out there to the point where I have some confusion. In the memo from Judy dated February 4th, the numbers for the Roos building and for the YMCA are no longer in the letter continuously in there. And it's my understanding, if I'm correct, that the $292,000 for the Y was charged off in 2009 fiscal year, and that the Roos money is being carried as $525,000 in deferred income, so it's not being put into the budget. On this memo, it's not stated anymore, and then the one in our packet for the 14th, it appears at the bottom again, and I'm not sure how we're going about that. And there was a story in the paper recently, and I don't think it was clarified well enough stating what's the deal with our finances. So if either Judy or Rory, Commissioner Hoskins could address that.
Commissioner Ostie, the money from the Roos property, it does sit in our bank accounts. It helps us with our cash balance.
Okay.
In theory, we have it reserved for infrastructure, but as you know, as Commissioner of Public Works, we haven't really done any long-range infrastructure planning, so that money sits in the bank account. As far as the money from the YMCA, that also sits in our bank account. It was recorded as revenue in fiscal year 2010.
It says 9 right on Judy's memo.
Well, maybe that's a mistake, but it's not? It's 9, okay. Fiscal year 2009. So basically it sits in the bank account, helping us with our cash balance.
Well, I understand, but if it was income in 2009, it's been reported in every memorandum we've received from the finance department over the last, 2 budget years since. So if it was charged against 9, why does it keep appearing? I understand it's cash in there, and probably not the same cash. It's probably gone out because it was expensed in 2009 against our legal costs for the YMCA. Now we've got $525,000, which you say we're just carrying in the bank account. But at no time has that been credited, or has it been credited as income to offset our balance for end of year. My point is, I believe there was an article in the paper that inferred that this money is the only reason why we have a balanced budget in Forest Park, and it is as yet to be credited as income. It's money that we can borrow and use, and it's in our account. It's not segregated, we can keep using it, but at no point has it been a debit or a credit in our account. So my question is that correct? Or is the story I read in the paper correct?
I think the story that you read in the paper was headlined "Village Officials Disagree," and there are ongoing disagreements.
Numbers are numbers, Commissioner. I'm just
I understand the
asking as
numbers are
Commissioner of
numbers,
Accounts and Finance,
Commissioner.
if
I
you
understand
know
the numbers are numbers, but the headline said "Village Officials Disagree." So there are different ways to look at the money. I think it's important that the fact that we received a one-time cash infusion from the Roos building that was intended for infrastructure remaining there to remind us that, we're not just doing so well. Our revenue's been declining consistently for a couple of years now. And I like it in there to remind the council that we need to restrain our spending. You're asking a number of questions that are a little technical. You can ask those to the village administrator if you like, because I know you guys have a very good relationship. You can call him up anytime you want. I know that he was at your bar a couple of weeks ago judging the chili contest, Commissioner. So, you don't need
charity chili contest,
you don't
but
need
that's
to come in
okay.
here grandstanding, which is
I'm
what
not
you're doing tonight.
grandstanding, I'm asking the numbers. You're the Council and Finance Commissioner. Do you know where the numbers are or not? It's a simple question. Did you charge this against any year, or is it just cash being carried? And if you haven't charged it against a year, does it affect our year-end balances as stated in the newspaper that the only reason why we have money left over at the end of the year is because of this number? And at what year did you charge it down?
Commissioner Ostie, I'm going to suggest that you and Tim and I talk about this offline. Right now, you're going into some grandstanding.
I'm not grandstanding.
Yes, you
Commissioner.
are grandstanding. You're raising your voice at me, and
But you've made some accusations over there about people being at a chili cook-off for a charity event.
well, it's true.
It is true. You didn't mention it was a charity event.
Well, if you want to talk about the finances, talk to the administrator right there.
I'm talking to the Council and Finance Commissioner. I thought that would be the person in charge of it. Am I
We
wrong?
have day-to-day operations.
Okay.
that
But
handled
you
by
have
professional
direct
staff.
contact with your commissioner, or
Right.
what your department head of accounts and finance,
Yes.
your finance director, and you edit her reports. So at what point has the 525 been credited in that you can say, or that it's stated in the paper, or you can correct the paper because they're sitting in front of us? At what point was that 525 charged off? It's a yes or no question. Has it been charged off or not?
That money sits in our bank account and it helps us with our cash balance.
Has it been charged off against any year affecting the year-end numbers?
It affected our year-end number in fiscal year 2010, like the paper reported.
How?
By assisting with our cash balance, Commissioner.
But the cash balance isn't the profit and loss of the village. Our year-end balance of what we took in and what we spent, did it affect the number at the end of last year? Did we have a surplus because of the 525? I'm not talking cash on hand, a surplus, expenses versus income.
It absolutely helped us with the surplus.
It's impossible.
Well,
Then it should have been charged off in 2010 and it's still being carried.
you could think it's impossible, Commissioner. You've never raised this question before. We've sat in budget meetings where you couldn't identify what marketing costs were marketing costs. You famously asked the question, well, we don't know what these expenses are, pleading ignorance to
Which one of those?
to not asking probing questions, Commissioner. So what you're doing right now is grandstanding.
You just called out three vague, I didn't know what I was talking about, and won't even state what they are, and I'm grandstanding?
Yes. you
I'm
are.
asking you, and you still haven't answered, yes or no. The 525, was it charged off on 2010?
The $525,000 is reflected in our fiscal year 2010 audit. It
In
was
what way? Was it charged off?
as money sitting in our account, helping us with our cash balance.
I guess, you can talk in circles, because you're not going to answer the question.
Well, we'll just leave it for another discussion then.
Mayor?
Commissioner Talay.
We have, as long as I've been on the council and even before that, it's one of the barometers that we've been given on a monthly basis is our cash balance as a percentage or a number of months, a percentage or a fraction of a month. Fortunately, it's not a fraction anymore, it's a month and a half of our cash reserves. That's been given to us as a barometer of our fiscal state. And even our auditors have talked to us about needing to have 25% or 3 months of cash in our cash balance, cash reserve. So I think that it's perfectly reasonable that this money be in that cash balance and be reported. But we also know that the Roost property is in flux and will have some obligations that were associated with that. I think it's wise that we recognize that the cash balance we see now, or the 1.5 months, has that condition on it that there will be some developments, and whether it's a legal obligation or not, certainly with the park's involvement, if the park were to be successful in that, I think there would certainly be an expectation that some of that money that was designated that we received for infrastructure improvement at the Roost should be spent at that location. So I think it's kind of a good idea to keep that part of it in it. Certainly with the YMCA, that was something that we pay off the bonds. They were not successful. That was the earnest money. We took that. It's in general revenue, and I noticed in the report, I don't believe that's in here now. So I guess it's just the Roost property money is probably a good idea that we recognize that there's some where it came from, and that there will be some future obligation.
Your Honor?
Commissioner Hosty.
I guess my point's being missed. I'm not arguing about the future obligation, the presence of the money. I'm arguing whether or not it's been charged off against another year, as it was stated in the newspaper report I read recently, that the only reason why we've had balanced budgets is the 525, and that is not the case. It's an influx in cash in hand. I get that. It should be carried as part of the cash report. But suddenly, it disappeared from these monthly reports after that newspaper article, as did the YMCA. And you can look at our audit report. It states in there in 2009 that money was charged off. It's now disappeared. I just want on the record that the 525 has not been the reason why we've had surplus monies in the 2010-2009 budgets, as it has been stated publicly.
Are you talking about fund balances?
I'm talking about year-end. Year-end expenses over revenue. Simple, what's the profit, if this were a corporation, what's the end number?
In our,
And that 525 should not and has not affected it, even though it has been reported as such. I wanted to be clear, and for some reason I'm not getting a clear statement back, but is it or is it not have affected it? Because I've read in the paper that it has, I've read in these reports it hasn't. And I'm just looking for a public statement to say, yes, that is carry forward money that we have not applied to any year as of yet. So the balances at the end of last year and the year before were not affected. The end balance, the number, not the cash on hand balance, the end balance number was not affected by the 525 from the roofs, as stated in the paper. That's all I'm looking for. Because there's people coming up to me going, well, you guys aren't really doing a decent job. The village's numbers are screwed up. The only reason why you have any money is this. And it's not true. It's because we've had, among this entire council and our department heads, extreme tightness with the budget. Spending only as needed and taking care of the best services we still provide in this town without touching that 525 in those annual budgets. And I give the credit to our department heads for getting that done. And when I read it in the paper and know it's wrong, I want it on the record so when people look in the public, they can say, oh, they are doing the best they can with what they can. That's why I'm saying it tonight.
Best they can with what they can is a very subjective thing to say, Commissioner. And, there are going to be disagreements. There have been a lot of disagreements about the financial report. You may even recall that some of those disagreements have been so extreme that we had to have, behind closed door meetings to resolve, who indeed did have oversight and who would control the content in these reports. So when you see a resident in the street, you better be able to explain what you've done and to defend your record.
I think I can.
I think most commissioners,
Can't
yes.
even do it here.
Well, that's your opinion. I think most of us can defend what we've done in terms of oversight of our departments. We do have professional staff on hand, and anytime you have a question about a very specific item, you can ask the administrator, you can ask the finance director. You've had relationships with the auditors for a number of years. You could have raised those questions then. But in my opinion, the $525,000 from the roofs should be reflected in the finance report to remind us of the need to control spending. Because, in my opinion, some of our discretionary spending was a little bit over the top. And I think we could have restrained ourselves. But that's just my opinion. You have a different opinion. So we can sit down with staff and talk about these finance reports anytime you like. But for you to come in here and get red-faced and raise your voice at me is a little bit inappropriate, and I would expect better from you, Commissioner.
And I'm the grandstander, okay?
Commissioner Olsey, did your questions get answered?
No, they didn't.
Okay.
In no way.
It is indisputable. It is indisputable that our audit, that all of us, received and looked at, and we had John Weber here to, answer any questions that anybody had on their mind 2 months ago, maybe, was it 2 months ago? It is indisputable that the fund balance for 2010, the fund balance, now that's different from cash balance. The fund balance would not have changed 1 penny. Let's rewind and pretend we didn't even receive the 525. It would not have altered the ending fund balance number. The 525 is as if it doesn't exist. Does that make sense? In terms of the fund balance. And it's real simple. The 525 was taken in as deferred revenue. And then it is also offset by being carried as a liability within the audit. So even though we have received $525,000 and we received it in fiscal year 2010, and now we're currently in fiscal year 2011. It was received in fiscal year 2010. The way it's carried on the books does not affect the fund balance because there has been no outputs to it. It's deferred revenue offset by liability. So it absolutely does not affect our fund balance even 1 penny, not 1 penny. I don't know if that helps.
That's the answer I was looking for, because I've read the audit and I believe that to be the truth, but there were two different stories being reported, and I wanted to see what it is, so I can unequivocally say that what I've been saying is correct.
And and these are generally accepted accounting practices that are used. Because that money is not specifically earmarked for anything. That's why it's being carried as deferred, or, wait for some time down the future for the body to decide, what do you want to earmark that money for? Right now, it's not earmarked for anything. So it's accounted for separately, but in deferred revenue, and then offset by a liability. Judy, is there anything incorrect with respect to what I've just stated?
Well, the liability is the deferred.
The liability is the deferred
Yeah,
revenue.
the asset is the.
I'm sorry, okay, an asset and then the liability.
Mayor, do you really expect a department head to disagree with you in a public meeting?
Oh, sure, if I'm incorrect, of course.
Okay.
But what are you implying, Commissioner? Are these like, you call those folks over there puppets or something like that?
I'm just asking you a question.
I feel kind of bad that I have to answer a finance question for the commissioner over here. You're the Commissioner of Accounts and Finance.
Well, I understand that, Mayor, but you are the mayor. You're the big chair. You're the general manager of our government. And when Commissioner Hosty comes and aggressively asks questions, that's his priority.
I mean, a prerogative, really, not a priority.
The article, whatever, the article that he referred to said village officials disagree, so there were disagreements. And then you say, this is unequivocal, et cetera, and your position as mayor, and I think that you have a consistent pattern sometimes of putting people on the spot, and you do intimidate department heads. So you should keep that in mind as you govern yourself. And I don't mean to
Who wants to be the
this.
first to stand up to say that I intimidate you guys? Anybody over there? Come on.
It's probably because you're intimidated.
That's ridiculous, Commissioner. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Is it?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It is. Maybe we better spend a little more time understanding the finances of the village.
Maybe you ought to spend a little time including people in discussions with our
Mayor.
consultants,
So
with our auditors, or whatever other professional service providers come to the village, Mayor.
There was two things, Commissioner Hosty, that I think they've got questions about, the 292 and the 525.
The 292 has been addressed in the statement. It's charged off as 2009, and I believe the Commissioner of Accounts and Finance.
But likewise, the 292 likewise would not have had any effect, zero effect, in the year ending for fiscal year 2010.
Correct.
Right, because it was charged off the previous year. Yes.
Yep.
I was.
That one was clarified by the statements in here and by the Commissioner, but it begged the question for the other 525.
I mean, I too was, a little bit concerned when, when that article ran in the newspaper, and I had discussions with with the editor of the newspaper, because what happens is, the public doesn't know what to believe, so your point is taken. They read that and they go, okay, public officials disagree. Well, okay, that's great.
I don't think you can agree to disagree over 525,000. It
What?
should be qualified as to what is the correct.
I mean, and I believe that to be true. And anybody that regularly attends these meetings know that, it's not uncommon to have disagreement. But the issue is when it comes down to audited information, by an independent third party, that's what you have auditors for. It's, they present facts. It's not made up. They're not picking sides. It has nothing to do with disagreements. The facts are what they are.
Mayor?
Commissioner Hoskins.
2 summers ago, you awarded the auditor a 5-year contract to do our audits.
Well, no, Commissioner, that's an incorrect statement.
We gave them a multi-year contract, Mayor. And while they should be independent third parties,
I like the we part.
the council awarded a multi-year contract.
That's better.
to
That's
Pro
more
Bono.
appropriate.
Like I said, you like to bully, and sometimes you try to intimidate people.
Don't be pointing fingers.
But your accounts and finance commissioner has, on more than one occasion, been excluded from meetings. There are times when the auditor is here, to talk to people in the village. And although I've expressed the desire to be at those meetings, I'm not invited to the meetings. And so, you know, you talk about people who come to the meetings regularly and what they should know. You know, there's some other things that they should know that affect how business is done in the village, Mayor. And, yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Commissioner, I have no clue what you're talking about, but I know I haven't excluded you from any meeting.
You absolutely have, Mayor.
What meeting might that be, Commissioner?
Meetings with the auditors, Mayor.
Are you talking about the one meeting I had with John Weber before coming here to present the audit?
No,
Because
Mayor.
no, you made a comment about that, because I haven't any meetings with the auditors prior to that.
There have been meetings with the auditors that I was not invited to, even though I expressed the desire to you to be invited to all the meetings. And if I'm not invited and I don't know when it's scheduled, I can't call them out by date, Mayor. But,
Commissioner, with all due respect, it still says Accounts and Finance there. You are the Commissioner of Accounts and Finance. I know that in the past you've called the auditors, you may have met with them. You have all the free liberty to meet with them, if you like, 7 days a week. I think that really it's a talk about, I think there's a thing maybe soft grandstanding. To sit here and softly grandstand and try and deflect meetings with auditors, you can talk to the auditors anytime. In fact, you should. You're the Commissioner of Accounts and Finance.
Mayor, you own the relationships. It's plain and simple. You own the relationships.
So are you indicating, Commissioner, that if you called Crow Horwath, they would not talk to you? They would not meet with you? Is that what you're implying?
I'm saying unequivocally, without a doubt, that there are consultants on the village payroll who will not return my calls because they feel like they report to the mayor.
Are you implying has Crow Horwath ever not returned your phone call?
I'm implying unequivocally that there are consultants who will not return my
I'm just
phone
wondering if you can answer the specific question. Are you implying that Crow Horwath has ever not returned your phone call? Yes or no?
I'll stand on what I just said, Mayor.
Okay, so you're sidestepping the question. Sidestepping the question. Because I wouldn't believe it. I wouldn't believe that our village auditors would not return a phone call, or for that matter, meet with the Commissioner of Accounts and Finance if asked. It's
I will say
shocking.
again that
Shocking.
It is shocking that these consultants feel like the mayor of Forest Park owns all the relationships.
Tim, hasn't there been some meetings with you and the Commissioner and Crow, or no?
There was one, Your Honor.
There was one.
Yes, sir.
What-
I want to say, not prior to the last audit, sir, but to the audit before this.
Actually, it was, I believe, Commissioner, after the audit, not this last one, but the one prior was completed, we met to discuss the management and discussion letter. And that's the one I recall you being at.
I think we met this past September or August, and you know, it wasn't Tim who invited me to the meeting there. I found out about it through another party, and I showed up. But yeah, I'll stand on what I said tonight, Mayor.
And what you said was that you could not answer the question that Crow Horwath, our village auditor, has denied meeting with the Commissioner of Accounts and Finance or has not returned a phone call.
I will say that parties at Crow have been very accommodating. I will say that in Forest Park, the mayor seems to own relationships with consultants.
And in fact, I think you were also involved in this last year's audit with the management and discussion analysis. You don't want to deny that, do you? Think carefully, Commissioner.
You think carefully, Mayor.
Because I think you absolutely were involved with the management discussion and analysis.
I certainly was, Mayor.
Okay.
I always try to be involved to the extent that I can.
And that would have been part and parcel of the work that our auditors do, is it not?
I am involved with the department to the extent that I can be, Mayor.
Okay. Commissioner Holsey, you got your questions answered?
From you, thank you. And Judy.
Okay, we're going to move on to approval of bills by resolution.